Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. We're going to be hearing a lot of those names. They are making it official. The AI boom is juicing the economy, but history warns of booms and bust. Young workers are finding that AI is not their friend. That's according to the latest Wall Street Journal report. Cracker Barrel caves in after a Trump family backlash. And inside Trump's cabinet reality show, the media is still pretending, believe it or not, that he's sane.
Welcome to Filtered with TJ Walker.
Welcome, I'm TJ Walker. Thanks for joining me today. We have a fun-filled show. I'm still on location. I am in the San Francisco Bay Area doing some training and speaking today for a number of tech clients and looking forward to a full day and then flying back to South Florida tomorrow. We'll probably be on location tomorrow for the show, but we'll be back to normal on Friday. So looking forward to that. Let's dive right in. Story one, this is a story we really can't escape. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged. They've made it official. The pop star and the Kansas City Chiefs tight end. And for our friends in India and other places, this is the American style football where it's basically organized violence and lots of committee meetings and lots of head injuries. Very popular in America. They posted news of their engagement on Instagram saying your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married. According to the New York Times, Kelce proposed in a garden in Missouri weeks ago, but the couple chose to reveal it now, just as Swift readies her new album and the NFL season kicks off. Swift showed off her ring under a floral arch while Kelce knelt on one knee. The romance began in 2023 after Kelce mentioned her on his podcast, New Heights, which he co-hosts with his brother, Jason. The platform, once a niche sports show, has since grown into a media brand with millions of downloads and very, very lucrative sponsorship deals. While Kelce has long been a three-time Super Bowl champion, Swift's presence has catapulted him into a new level of celebrity. Together, they form one of the most powerful couples in entertainment and sports. Okay, so what's the real message here? Like it or not, you're going to be hearing more and more and more news about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. They are America's royalty. They're more famous than anybody else. They're richer than anybody else. And a lot of people are fascinated. Young girls with Taylor Swift, older men with Travis Kelce, and we're just going to be hearing about them constantly. They're going to be the media brand, perhaps of the next decade or 2 or 3 decades. So get ready for it. Let's dig a little bit deeper. What does this really mean for you and me? We can't escape the fact that these are two media conglomerates. Taylor Swift is a billionaire, according to Forbes. Her concerts are the most successful concerts ever. And Travis Kelce, he's not like he's a backup dancer for some star on Broadway making $40,000 a year. This guy is an economic powerhouse in his own right. He's had a lengthy, distinguished football career. He's made tens and tens of millions of dollars, but he's been extraordinarily savvy with using his fame from one field and leveraging that to podcast fame. And now his podcast is really taking off when he has guest appearances from Taylor Swift. So I do predict that this couple generates a lot more attention than Meghan and Harry. I still don't really understand why anybody, and I mean anyone, would care about Meghan and Harry. You know, we're the United States. Our whole country is premised on the idea that royalty doesn't matter, that the idea of kings and queens anointed by gods is complete, utter BS. When it comes to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, they've been anointed by the people. Taylor Swift wasn't given her fame and popularity. She had to earn it. She's been out hustling and working since she was a very little girl and cobbling together fans one at a time, one album at a time. And she is, by all accounts, an extraordinarily disciplined, hardworking entrepreneur. And a lot of people love her music. I listen to it all the time, not really by choice, but it's what my 12-year-old daughter loves. I'm also not a fan of NFL football, but you know what? That makes me an outlier among men in the United States. People love football, people love music. You put the two together, and there is a synergy that may be as big as Beyonce and Sean Carter. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these folks, presuming the marriage lasts. Now, I'm not predicting any divorce. I wish them well. And if they do stay together, this could be an economic, cultural powerhouse, the likes of which we've not seen in a long, long time. Yes, bigger than Sonny and Cher, for those of you old enough to remember Sonny and Cher. That was quite a big deal. So I do think that uh, we're on to something here. If you think this is going to be a huge brand, a huge media spectacle. Now they could be like Beyonce, who uh, when she got married to Sean Carter, they just did it quietly. They just did it. They didn't tell anybody because these things can spiral out of control. And next thing you know, you've got 10,000 paparazzi flying over you with helicopters. You can't even hear the wedding bells. So I don't know what they're going to do about that, but it does seem as though two of them are extraordinarily savvy. They plan things. They have a strong sense of their image. Certainly, Taylor Swift and her team are extraordinarily protective of her image and regulating everything she does. Well, she does it. I'm not suggesting she is like a Britney Spears where she's kind of barely there and people are managing her and trying to keep her from shaving her head. No, Taylor Swift seems to be very much in charge of her own empire. She has a tight-knit group of her family and other trusted advisors. And by all accounts, Travis Kelce is not at the same level of media stardom, but he certainly is someone who's put together a team. You see him now in sort of everywhere in pop culture. He's in the most recent Adam Sandler movie and a very funny cameo as a waiter. His podcast is taking off, although it's currently on hiatus. Why he would want to be on hiatus now, I don't know. And this is his big moment of fame. Here's the big thing I can't quite get from Travis Kelce's standpoint. He's 35 years old, which is a lot younger than I am, but that's ancient for being a professional football player. When you think of the constant smacking and damage to the human brain, the body, and when you think of these days, he can make so much more money from his podcast. I'm not even going to get into whether they have a prenuptial or not. I can't imagine someone in her position wouldn't. But just the amount of money he can make from his podcast, I would think he would want to retire, even if he feels like he's in perfect shape. Now, we do live in an era where personal training is better, nutrition is better, physical therapists are better, and you see someone like Tom Brady playing till he's practically 100 years old. Still, football is a brutal, brutal profession, and it's painful. Now, you can say, well, TJ, you seem like a wimp. You seem like you can't take a punch. You know what? You're right. I can't take a punch. I don't want to. I was a horrible football player. Travis Kelce is obviously a great football player. He's been on numerous Super Bowl teams. But at some point, you would just think for your own preservation, if you're thinking long term, why risk more bashes to the skull, especially considering the life of wealth, extravagant wealth and luxury he can live now, even if he never gets a penny of Taylor Swift's money. So I'm not going to I'm not a sports prognosticator, but I certainly would not be surprised if he retires in the next year or so, especially if they were to start, try to have a family. That would be a good reason to not want to be traveling and getting your skull bashed in on a regular basis. They both seem like a very, very savvy couple, parts of a savvy couple. I think we're going to be seeing them for a long, long time, provided they stay together, because they both have a very, very strong, hardcore work ethic. They both produce a lot. Neither one of them seems to be living just for today. They're always thinking about the future. They're plotting long-term media careers, and they're already both really successful, although Kelce not quite as successful as Taylor Swift, but who among us is? All right, we'll be back in a moment. Lots more to come today on Filtered with TJ Walker. Hey, if you're enjoying this kind of take and want to hear more stories filtered through the lens of communication, make sure you're following the show, whether you're watching or listening. New episodes drop every single day. And if there's a little notification option where you are now, go ahead and turn it on. It helps you stay in the loop. We are back, and quick production note. I am on location today. My producer, Hakeem, is in the green room with me. And Hakeem, I'm not hearing any audio when I play the ads. So I'm wondering, are you hearing my audio? Please send me a message, because normally I would hear it filtered through that, but that may just be a problem with my earpiece. We're not doing any interviews today, so that shouldn't be a problem. Okay, but let me know if you are in fact, I guess you are in fact hearing it now. So let me know if there are any other problems. Meanwhile, we're going to proceed right into the show and get going to to our second story of the day. Again, those of you new to this, we look at the top stories of the day, filtered through the lens of communication skills and personal development, all with the goal of helping you learn from the news to be more successful in your own life. Issue 2, the AI spending frenzy. Artificial intelligence isn't just driving headlines and stock prices, it's now propping up the real economy. According to the New York Times, global spending on AI infrastructure will reach $375 billion this year and is expected to climb to $500 billion in 2026. That money is flowing into data centers, chip factories, power plants, creating jobs for electricians, engineers, and construction crews, even as housing and office projects slow down. Brookfield Asset Management estimates the world will pour $7 trillion into AI infrastructure over the next decade. For now, the boom is cushioning the U.S. economy against high interest rates and sluggish real estate markets. But economists warn the parallels are striking like the dot-com bubble of the early 2000s. Enormous investment is being made on the assumption that future profits will justify today's frenzy. As Raymond James economist Eugenio Alaman put it, there is always a risk that very little of what they say is going to pan out. Okay, what's the real message here? We are in an AI frenzy, and the money is going everywhere. It does seem a little bit similar to me to the late 1990s when the dot-com cash was flowing. But beware. Anyone who tells you they know there's going to be a crash in the next 6 months, sell all your stocks, be very wary, because they are wrong the vast, vast majority of the time. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know the future, but neither does anyone else. Okay, let's dig a little deeper here. I mentioned the parallels between the internet boom, the 1990s, 2000s. Billions were poured into dot-coms, fiber optic cables, all sorts of things. And in 2001, all wiped out, or a huge portion of it wiped out. There was a PC boom in the 1980s, and in the early 90s, you had so many computer companies, Compaq, Dell, all sorts of companies that no one's ever heard of since then. They got wiped out. Radio, people forget about how many people were investing in this radio technology, and the vast majority of them went bust. Same with automobiles. There were hundreds of automobile companies 120 years ago in the United States, and then it whittled down to 3. So if you invested in the other 197 companies, you basically lost money. Railroads, very similar, massive overbuilding, lots of bankruptcies, but it became the backbone of the economy. So again, the forecast is for $7 trillion. I don't know if that's really true. One of the things you've always got to be careful about is when you see estimates about the future. If I estimate it's going to be 500 billion and someone estimates it's going to be 1 trillion and someone else estimates 7 trillion, the media is going to glom on to the larger number because it's more interesting and more exciting. This is from an outfit called Brookfield estimating 7 trillion. I don't know if we can put much faith in that. But what I do know with absolute certainty is AI is changing a lot of people's lives. And there is tremendous excitement about it. I know I use AI every single day. AI helps me write my scripts. It helps me organize the show. The image you're seeing on the screen right now is AI driven. So you could make the case that very few people actually used pets.com back in 2000 before it crashed. And that all the money put into the internet was for things that were really still at the conceptual stage. We're far, far past that when it comes to AI. It's not at the concept stage. People are using it every single day. If you think you're not using it, you're wrong. It's integrated in everything you do. This is very different, for example, than Bitcoin. The analogy I've seen lately with Bitcoin is you need to think of it as basically a company, a big company, but its market cap for all the Bitcoin is less than Apple. And any one company can go up or down and go bankrupt. I think that's kind of the proper way to think about Bitcoin. I don't think that's the proper way to really look at AI these days. It's not like one company. It is feeding and it's becoming a part of the central nervous system of the entire world economy and certainly the internet. And that's why it has to be seen as legitimate. The usage rate, to me, is what is so important. Nobody actually uses Bitcoin. I realize I'm going to get some hate mail for that. But Bitcoin is something that's pure speculation. You buy it not because you're going to use it to buy a car, maybe a drug deal, but you're buying it simply with the hopes that some other sucker will come by later and pay you more than what you paid for it. That's not what people are doing with AI companies. People are not buying a share of stock in a pre-IPO mode or any mode thinking, I'm just doing this so I can sell it to someone higher. No, AI is actually being used every single day. I'm using it right now. It's integrated in every web search you do, every inquiry to ChatGPT or Claude or Grok. It's being used massively. And when some new service is used by the whole world, sometimes dozens of times a day, hundreds of times a day, it's real. That means there's value there. People are going to pay for it at different levels, at different parts of the experience. There's different parts of the value chain. And that's why I won't say this time is different because everyone always gets burned when they say that. But I don't think this is a flash in the pan. This is not quite like the late 1990s when venture capitalists were just handing out 10, 20, $50 million checks to 19-year-olds who had some crazy idea about, I'll just have a website that sells licorice sticks with more flavors than anyone else. Give me $50 million. There was a whole lot of nonsense like that back in the 90s. And it was pretty obvious to a lot of people, this isn't really sustainable. And so much money was going to companies that didn't have a prayer of being profitable and were unprofitable and going public. We are not seeing companies go public. Now, doesn't mean there can't be a lot of fraud. That doesn't mean that there can't be a bubble, because these days it's so much easier for startups to get private sector money and money before they become a public company. But what we're not seeing is companies going public, millions and millions of consumer investors, average investors, mainstream investors, plowing in their life savings to an AI company that has zero profits and is hemorrhaging a lot. What we are seeing is big traditional companies that have been around, incumbents for a long time, the Microsofts of the world. These days, Facebook is an old company. Google's an old company. They're spending fortunes on AI. But if AI goes bust tomorrow, Google's still going to be around. Facebook is still going to be around. They have revenue models that will stand the test of time, at least for now. I'm not saying they'll never, ever go belly up. You look at the history of the Dow Jones or the top most well-known profitable companies in any era, 30 years later, most of them are gone. But for now, the ad revenue for Google and Facebook is just so strong. They can afford to lose hundreds of billions of dollars on AI investment, and it's not really going to put them out of business. So I think it is important to be conscious of the fact that our economy may be benefiting almost unfairly from all of this investment in AI. And I think it's papering over a lot of massive destruction in terms of policy at the federal government level. And all these tariffs, all these meddling, all this government taking over, taking 10% stakes in chip companies, I think is massively, massively destructive to our economy. And it's not showing up yet because the AI boom is propelling things. But I think it's perhaps an illusion, and it's a ticking time bomb. But unlike so many other talking heads on YouTube, I'm not going to predict exactly when we're going to go into recession, because we talked about yesterday, nobody really knows the future. That is what makes the world exciting and what shows how nobody really has a monopoly on true insight on the future. More in a moment. I'm TJ Walker.
We'll be right back after this break. Want to advertise here? You better be legit. No crypto, no junk food, no supplements. Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. Most people can't afford a full-time coach. And even if you could, good luck finding one who's available when you need them. That's why I created the TJ Walker AI clone. It's built on my 40-plus years of real-world coaching and training. You get my exact advice, style, and frameworks instantly. Ask it how to handle a tough question, get feedback on your elevator pitch, rehearse your next big talk. This is the next generation of communication coaching. It's smarter than an app, more personal than a course, and always ready. Start using it today at tjwalker.ai. You'll wonder how you ever did without it. Want to advertise to ambitious upscale professionals who actually care about communication, success, and results? Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. And no, we don't take ads for crypto, supplements, or junk food. If you've ever struggled with nerves, unclear messaging, or just not being taken seriously, this is for you. I created the TJ Walker Success Library as a crash course in professional level communication. You get 5 downloadable books for just $9.95 that walk you through public speaking, media training, persuasive communication, confidence building, and daily practice routines. This is the same training I've delivered to presidents, CEOs, and leaders in 45 nations, boiled down and instantly accessible. Go to tjwalker.com/books and download them now.
Is AI wrecking your job prospects? That's the conclusion from a new survey in the Wall Street Journal. There's new evidence that artificial intelligence is reshaping the job market, and young workers are paying the price. According to the Wall Street Journal, research from 3 Stanford economists shows that employment has dropped sharply among younger workers in jobs most exposed to generative AI software. Developers aged 22 to 25 are down nearly 20% since late 2022. Receptionists, translators, and customer service reps show similar declines. Stanford economist Eric Brynjolfsson told the Journal, quote, "There's a clear, evident change when you specifically look at young workers who are highly exposed to AI. Older workers, by contrast, have been more insulated, often because they built complementary skills that AI can't replicate, like managing teams and navigating complex workplace needs. That raises a troubling paradox. If entry-level roles disappear, how will the next generation gain the expertise today's veterans have?" The study also found a brighter spot in jobs where AI acts as a bridge or acts as a helper rather than a replacement, such as medicine. Employment growth among young people is actually outpacing the broader market. So, what's the real message here? AI is a mixed bag. If you are a young tech worker, you just got your degree in computer science, guess what? They're not going to be dangling high-priced jobs in front of you quite as easily as they used to. But before you go, oh, boo-hoo, and feel sorry for yourself, realize there's never been a better time in human history to be alive and be educated and smart and hardworking and be healthy. You have so many opportunities. Maybe you have to shift and start a job in sales. But if you learn how to sell technology, you will have job security for the rest of your life, regardless of how powerful AI becomes. Let's dig a little deeper. Yeah, I can understand being frustrated if you have friends who graduated from college 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. They majored in computer science and they didn't really work on their social skills or networking or anything else. They just plugged away in the computer lab and boom, they got a nice six-figure job right out of college working for Google or Facebook or Amazon. And you thought, that sounds easy. I'll do the same thing. And it hasn't happened. Okay, I can understand being a little frustrated. But let's put things in perspective. You are in a generation now that's completely different from when I was young and when all of human history was when people were young, in that you've got this gig economy, and that's not a long-term solution. I get it. But you're not sitting at home watching Jerry Springer eating Cheetos, feeling sorry for yourself, wondering how you can just buy illegal opioids. You can work right now. You can drive Uber. You can put yourself on websites to do gigs. You can create software. You can start apps. You can create an online course. There's so many things you can do if you're smart, educated, and hardworking to make money today. Yeah, maybe it's not quite as neat and clean as you graduate from college on June 13th and June 14th. You show up in a big office and everyone's there, and there's the nice coffee machine and the snack machine there, and you get the paycheck on Friday. I realize that's probably what you want, might be the best thing for you, but you have so many other choices now that I didn't have, other people didn't have, that no human generation had until really the last few years. So enjoy it. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Be a little bit flexible. Maybe your goal was to be a programmer and you've got great tech chops, and all of a sudden the AI has made that skill set superfluous for now. Why don't you pivot a little? Because guess what? Every one of these big tech companies, they all need human communicators in the form of salespeople. Why don't you become great at sales for the next couple of years? Build an income, build a reputation in your industry, and then maybe you start your own tech company. And yeah, you can be the initial programmer for your own tech company, but you'll also have the sales skills needed to bring in venture capital, to bring in other investors, to recruit a chief technology officer, to recruit the head of HR, because you will have something that right now AI doesn't have, the ability to look another human being in the eye and convince them of something, to get them excited about something, to get them to work at a common goal for something new. That's not something AI can do yet, and I'm not sure it will be able to anytime soon. That's something you can do right now. So that's what I want you to think about. If you're a young worker now, rather than just spending 10 hours a day, click, send, click, send, click, send, sending out resumes and getting no response, let's diversify. Yeah, send out your resumes an hour a day, but spend the other 9 hours a day networking with people, taking a side gig, getting some income, doing some consulting. Maybe IBM or Google are not going to hire you for $150,000 a year, but maybe 3 nonprofits in your town would love to pay you $50 an hour to program computers or software to help them with their own fundraising. Let's be creative here, because it's never been easier to get revenue sources coming in. If you're educated and have skills, it's never been easier. Am I saying it's easy to get a great full-time job? No, but you have opportunities, and I want you to take advantage of them. Let's look at some of the statistics. Again, I don't mean to sugarcoat this, but the headcount is down for software developers 20%, according to the Wall Street Journal, since late 2022. For workers aged 26 to 30, it's flat growth. And for older workers who really have seniority and connections and the ability to lead teams, demand is going up for their services. So it's not all gloom and doom. Is there a chance at some point AI puts us all out of work? Yeah, but that is not happening yet. So let's not panic. Speaking of panic, there was some panic in the larger economy this week, specifically yesterday with Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel reverses their logo after a Trump-led backlash. Cracker Barrel has dropped its new logo design after a wave of conservative backlash, and the Trump family was at the center of it, not surprisingly. According to the New York Times, the chain unveiled a modernized logo last week. We talked about it right here in this show, replacing its old iconic old-timer figure with a cleaner, sleeker look. Almost immediately, social media lit up with criticism. This was led by Donald Trump Jr., who posted, WTF, classy as always, Donald. WTF is wrong with at Cracker Barrel. He was outraged that the idea that they would change their logo, as if Donald Trump Jr. had ever been inside a Cracker Barrel his entire life. Then the father jumped in. President Trump weighed in, calling the rebrand a mistake and urging the company to stick with its traditional design. He declared the controversy gave Cracker Barrel billions of dollars worth of free publicity and told them to make Cracker Barrel a winner again. By Tuesday, the company announced it would scrap the redesign and keep the classic logo that had been a part of its identity since 1977. Cracker Barrel admitted it could have done a better job rolling out the change, but it said it had heard its customers loud and clear. Okay, so what's the real message here? Did Cracker Barrel make a mistake putting out its slick new logo and not taking into consideration the emotional attachment its customers had with the old one? Yeah, they made a mistake. But the far bigger mistake our economy is looking at right now is having big government, i.e. socialism, that's what it's called in most circles, telling private sector businesses what to do and micromanaging down to the logo. The fact that Trump and Trump family members are telling a private sector company how to manage their business should scare the living daylights out of anyone who's a conservative, a libertarian, a believer in the free market system, but also centrist, moderates, and Democrats. It should be scary to everyone. Let's go a little bit deeper here. Now, critics said that the redesign was soulless and woke. There's this new term now, anything you don't like because you think it somehow doesn't glorify a conservative white person, you no longer have to make a factual argument as to why it's bad. You just call it woke. Oh, I don't like the new chocolate ice cream. It's woke. I don't think we're that far away from that label being turned around. And yeah, could Cracker Barrel have handled this a little better? Sometimes, like Michelin is a great example of a company that I think handled a logo design better. They had the Michelin Man used to look wildly obese. And then over the years, they subtly made it slower and slower. And because of that, no one criticized them for fat shaming. Michelin pretty much died, unless I missed that. They did not get any criticism for that. They subtly changed their logo over time and didn't call a lot of attention to it. This was perhaps too abrupt, and people didn't like it. It's very similar in some respects to what Coke did with a new Coke, saying, "Oh, we have a new flavor." And people are like, "No, we want the old flavor." Even though if you did blind taste test, all the blind taste tests showed people preferred new Coke. So corporations, politicians, really anyone trying to persuade the public, they've always got to factor in what is it people say they want and what is it they actually want. You have to navigate that because sometimes if you give people what they actually prefer, they get very outraged. How dare you make me question the fact that I don't really know what I want? I see this in political campaigns all the time. Voters will tell you, I don't want a politician who uses negative ads. I'll vote against any politician who uses negative ads. And then the candidate who uses negative ads most effectively wins. So you always have to be careful about what people say they want. This is the problem with focus groups. People will speak with their head, oh, this design looks cleaner, simpler, more modern. But in their gut, they may be thinking, but I like the old way, but I don't want to seem like an old fuddy-duddy. So they don't say that. So this is a problem companies, political campaigns have, and others, that it's just hard to really gauge sometimes what the best thing is to do. But I do find it troubling that we've got a government here that feels the need to not weigh in just on big decisions like taking a 10% stake in a company because they'd previously been offered subsidies to help develop the chip industry and say, oh, no, we're going to break our promise. We're not going to give it to you anymore. We want to basically extort you. Give us 10% of our company. That's one thing, as horrible as that is. But to now have the president and members of the first family weighing in, micromanaging essentially every decision private sector companies make. This is what conservatives have been railing about, warning us about for decades, saying this is going to destroy the United States. We're going to become Cuba. We're going to become socialistic Cuba. And Fidel Castro really wasn't very good at managing an expanding economy. And that's why people are living in third world poverty. They're driving 1957 Chevys. We don't want that in America. And you know what? Conservatives were right to warn us about that. And now they are strangely, oddly, bizarrely quiet when their champion is doing exactly what they said is the worst possible thing to do for the economy. So, Cracker Barrel, have I stopped in one before? Sure. Have I had to use your restroom or buy a snack? Sure. But I think you did the wrong thing by pandering to and encouraging and feeding the beast of this current White House that pretty soon is going to be telling chewing gum companies what flavor gum they can chew or they can sell. And it's going to be telling, haircut companies, oh, from now on, you can only cut people's hair to do comb overs and be bleach blonde because that's all that real Americans want. I don't think we're that far away from that level of meddling, which does lead to our next story here, which is even more troubling. And I don't know if you saw any of this. I mercifully was traveling and working and training and speaking all day yesterday and got to miss this. But Let me share the facts with you. President Trump turned a cabinet meeting this week into something closer to a reality TV marathon than a policy session. According to the Times and all other news sources, the gathering stretched for more than 3 hours, longer than a Godfather movie, with cabinet members lining up to praise the president while he riffed on topics ranging from windmill threats to traffic medians and even the water flow rate. He mused that the spectacle was government and hinted he could humiliate anyone who didn't perform well. Trump floated vaccine autism conspiracies, dangled the death penalty for violent crime, and called the session transparent. In truth, it was a televised exercise in ego management. Here's the deeper problem. The media often treats this behavior as eccentric entertainment. It's what some critics call sane washing. Republicans, meanwhile, continue pretending this conduct is normal, much like Democrats once downgraded Joe Biden's own frailties. The result? A president who increasingly appears detached from reality, with both parties and the press reluctant to say plainly what millions can see already. Okay, what's the real message here? Pay attention, folks. If you were troubled by Joe Biden's debate performance last year against Donald Trump, where he clearly didn't seem capable of that office, you need to be even more troubled by this utter fiasco of a 3 hour and 17-minute cabinet meeting this week, where Trump is just out of control, ranting, spewing utter nonsense about insane things. This is not normal, folks. It's not the way sane, rational, effective governments run. And to just write this all off, say, well, that's Trump being Trump. That's no different than saying Biden, he's just having a bad day. No, sometimes it's time to get off the stage. Let's dig a little deeper here. It's all well and good to criticize the people around around Joe Biden last year for being overly protective and for not really thinking first and foremost about what's good for the country or good for the party. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, the Biden people were awful. And wasn't it awful that the mainstream media kept this hidden? I think the mainstream media is doing a horrible job of really spotlighting how many crazy, absolutely poop things are coming out of Trump's mouth, and just the bizarre things that go on in cabinet meetings that historically have just never happened before. And this cabinet meeting was so long that they finally had to interrupt him and say, oh, what do you think about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift getting engaged? I mean, all sorts of news stories kept going on. And thankfully, at least some news channels broke away from the cabinet meeting to talk about more important things, Taylor Swift and her engagement. Folks, when the government meets, when the cabinet's meeting, it's supposed to be about important stuff. It's not supposed to be a reality show. Donald Trump doesn't seem to understand the difference between being president and playing president on TV. And that's a sign of and I'm not a professional psychologist or psychiatrist, but it certainly seems like a sign of delusion, a sign of dementia, a sign of Alzheimer's, a sign of someone who's not playing with a full deck, to be scientific about it. And it is time that more Americans, the media, members of the president's party, could just admit that and talk about it. This idea that only one party needs to be accountable for presidents that are operating past their sell-by date, it's not fair, it's not real, and it's not justice. And it's time more and more people just pointed out, regardless of your thoughts on tariffs, and I think they're insane and wildly counterproductive, as a basic level of, does this person seem like they're playing with a full deck? That question needs to be asked by more and more Republicans, MAGA members, members of Congress. And it may get to the point where maybe we don't have another impeachment. Maybe we have a removal by cabinet members, which is allowed by the Congress because the president appears to be incapacitated. And I don't mean because he's 6 feet under. I mean incapacitated because his brain simply no longer seems to be working like a sane human being, much less the most powerful person in the world. I'm TJ Walker. I want to thank you for joining me today. This is a slightly truncated show. I'm on location in Silicon Valley today, headed off for some speaking and training, and looking forward to the launch next week. We really go live and big time next week, September 2nd. We'll be broadcasting on every single podcast platform in the world, or certainly all major ones. Hope to be on the top 100, as well as YouTube, which congratulations, YouTube. Now for 6 months in a row, you're the number one streaming service people are watching on their televisions. And I hope some of you are watching this on your TV right now, not just your cell phone or a computer. So that'll be coming up. Mark your calendars. Get ready to subscribe to the podcast. You can subscribe right here on YouTube and on YouTube Music, but you'll also be able to subscribe to the audio version on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and all the other normal places. Thanks so much. See you tomorrow.